Hello, my YouTube world. This is Johnny Moe. I want to discuss with you today. I got a lot of questions about this, and I want to clarify some things before people start going out and buying mowers. I take what I do here on YouTube very, very serious, and I know I said that the Ferris is my favorite mower, and I've gotten about 6 or 7 emails about people going and buying Ferrises upon my recommendation. I want to talk to you about something that I did to make my ICD deck better. And I also want to clarify something that was said on Lawn Site about, it's gonna be a little bit of a longer one, but about, I don't know when that was, probably 2009, maybe 8, 2007, I can't remember when it was. When the ICD deck first came out, I was very interested in it. I loved my Ferris deck, my Ferris mower, but it had the old style deck, and that deck did not cut good in wet conditions, and it did barely cut good in any conditions. But I was able to use it, maneuver around it. I bagged a lot back then, so the deck to me was fine. And when they came out with the ICD deck, there was a big, this is the best deck ever, the whole nine. And at the time, I just recently got pretty big into it, and we were running 2 crews, and I wanted I wanted the ICD deck, and I love the Ferris mower. It's just they were so much money at the time when they came out with the ICD deck, and then Snapper Pro came out with the ICD deck. So I bought a Snapper Pro with an ICD deck. So here's what happened. As you can see, I don't know if you can see from here, but I've said it in other videos. Look how wide that opening is. It's huge. Okay, now here's the problem that we had. This is the opening to the bagger. Nowhere near as wide. So what happened was I was bagging a lot back then, and it was leaving a trail. And it was the first generation of ICD decks. I bought it in March. I was not able to use it. It would not side discharge. It would not bag at all. We had a crazy spring. So that mower basically sat until May, until finally I called the factory, and we were going back and forth. You can go on the Lawn Site, read the post. I said, send me an old deck. This deck is garbage. And they sent me a new deck, which was the old style deck, and I put that on my mower. And that mower is still being used by another company today. So it worked out fine. I was used to that style deck. It did not cut great in wet conditions at all. That mower was the worst wet cutting mower I've ever used. In dry conditions, it did all right. It did all right. You might have to double cut, but it did not cut nowhere near it. So I let a few years go by, and then they did some fixes to the ICD deck. What they did is they curved the one baffle, which I showed you. In the early generations of the ICD deck, that baffle was not curved. It was more like the Skag deck, and for some reason that deck just could not cut grass at all. And so I waited a few years, and I took a chance, and I bought another Snapper Pro, I bought the 52 version, and I was concerned about the bagging. Again, because it wasn't opened up enough, and I liked the way the 52 side discharged. Standard cut blades. So, what I was upset with Ferris and all them was that they released a bagger that could not possibly bag, and they knew it, and they released that deck. That's why I trashed them so bad, was because of that. Like, how do you release a system and sell a bagger for it that could not bag above? Well, we don't want you bagging that much. I was trying to bag 4, 5, 6 inches of grass, and it was just leaving a strip on the side because the throat of that mower is just way too big to be sucked in there. So the 52 seemed to do okay, but it would leave that little strip. So what I had to do is I took the little turbo baffle out, and this is what a turbo baffle is. This is a turbo baffle right here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's this little baffle. You probably can't see it, but this little baffle right here that helps direct the grass flow. You took that out, and that little mower would do better. So it came up. I needed another mower. The Ferris mower was going bad. The other Snapper Pro was doing fine. The 52 just wasn't big enough. I made a mistake when I bought it. It just wasn't big enough for everything that's cutting. So I bought this and I put the bagging system on. I had issues with the bagging system. It would not suck it all in. And I was having some issues cutting wet grass with the ICD deck. So I was complaining to the factory, going back and forth. I was upset with them. Finally, I came up with my own fix. This blade right here is a high lift blade that came on the old Ferris Snapper Pro squared off decks. It is about the size of a Toro blade, the fan. So here is a Toro blade. As you can see, it's about the same. The wing, this is the wing, it's about the same. So I put that on the deck of my 60-inch, which is right here, and I had a much better, I didn't have to take the turbo baffle out anymore, and it side discharges perfectly. It's awesome. These are the things that I've had to do. So now it goes into that bagger really good. Now, here's the weakness of this. Now, the standard blade, which I don't have any because I don't use them, this wing is extended all the way back to here, and it created a lot of air force. And probably with that wide opening, it maybe needed it if you were side discharging. But this one, it does not do that. It side discharges perfectly for me. And so when I did that, I noticed that I was getting a better quality side discharge, and I was able to use the bagger without taking the turbo baffle out, which is a pain in the butt. If you're doing a lot of bagging, the turbo baffle can stay out. But in this stage of my career, bagging is just not an option anymore. It's stupid to bag all the time. I bagged for 2 weeks this year so far. So I used this blade, and all my ICD deck problems were solved. One caveat, and there's just one. If you're cutting a bent grass lawn or a fine fescue lawn, and it gets dry in the summer and it's in the shade, this blade will not lift it up and cut it. It kind of just knocks it down. A lot of mowers have this issue, but this mower is pretty prevalent. So those are some issues that you have to think about when you're dealing with the ICD deck. Now, I want to make sure that I quantify. I'm in the Northeast because I don't want a bunch of people going out and buying these mowers and saying it sucks. I want to tell you what I did to fix these issues. I had to go, this is an old style Ferris blade. This blade came off my Ferris mower, and it just has a smaller fin. It's still curved up good, but it's not all the way out to here curved. And what was happening is the ICD deck under wet conditions wasn't lifting and cutting the what it was doing was that so much airflow was lifting up the grass that was kind of wet, and it was leaving it would only cut some of it. And then you look back and you could see that you had to go over again. It's kind of leaving just strips of uncut grass. But what was happening is the grass was heavy, and the blades were trying to lift it all up because there was so much air pressure and cut it all, and it was just leaving it it just didn't look good. Now these don't do that. They'll just leave it laid down. It looks striped, and that's perfect for me. I'm not asking for it to be, an absolute perfect cut. So if you have an X mark, sorry about that, guys. If you have an X mark, it's not going to lift and cut as good as an X mark. I'm just going to tell you right now. I believe the Toro Turbo Force lifts and cuts better than this deck. But I will say, when you're talking about going from something comfortable, the Ferris mower is really comfortable, and you can find the little idiosyncrasies that you'll need to fix with your Snapper Pro. Now, in your area, you might not have a problem with the cutting system. You might not have a problem with any of that. It might just be perfect. I also took the striping kit off. The reason why is because we have grasses that grow not all our grasses grow erect. See, some of that out there is called coarse fescue. And you can see this coarse fescue right here. It grows in different directions. So what would happen is you would cut it right here, but then that striping kit would leave it up, and it wasn't cut evenly. So when you're cutting grass without a striping kit, it could cut that way, but see how it's still laid? Now, if you have a striping kit, it lays it back up, which leaves it look like it's not cut. Not a good system for up here in the Northeast. We have a lot of grasses that do that. We have crabgrass, coarse fescues. Some of the fescues don't grow perfectly straight or erect. And these are little things that you have to take in consideration. So what I do when I buy an ICD deck, which this is the last mower I bought, is I take off the striping kit and take off the blades. Two things that I absolutely do. That might work for your situation. If you're going to run these baggers, which are awesome baggers, you have to understand that you can't overload that little bit. See, that the deck opening goes from here to here, but it's only open in the bagger from here. So what you have to do is you can't overwhelm that bagger. So you have to take out the turbo baffle if you're going to use standard blades. Now I use these blades, and it never overwhelms the bagger. I never have a strip, never have an issue. Again, the only issue I have with the Turbo Force deck, or not the Turbo Force, but the ICD deck, is right now when it's hot out. And the grasses want to lay over more because you're cutting high, and it does not do very well of picking up that grass. It'll lay it over. And especially in I've noticed the fine fescue lawns in the shade are the worst. They just kind of just fall over. There's not very many mowers that actually do a good job cutting that anyway. But I do notice that this mower, this ICD deck in particular, has a particularly hard time of when it's just pushed over. It won't pick it up and cut it. In fact, it looks striped from the road, but if you go over there, you look at it, you'll see the tire marks where it's just smashed down. That's an issue right now. And you have to give a little bit, take a little bit. That's what I did. I like the way the ICD deck cuts. In my opinion, the ICD deck with those blades cut better in wet conditions than the Toro Turbo Force. But the Turbo Force deck also lifts and cuts a little bit better. So you decide. It's on you. I wanted to clarify because I realize I have some posts out there about the ICD deck, about Ferris. Ferris is my favorite running mower. I put the most hours on a Ferris, but I put a lot of work into it. I had to weld the back shock where the back shock sat in. I welded that 3 times. It was just comfortable, and the speed of it gets you through your day. You have more energy at the end of the day. I like the Ferris mower. I did not like the trouble that I had with the ICD deck. I did not like that at all. Just those 4 months when I originally bought the first ICD deck was just horrendous. And then obviously when I bought this one, I had to tweak it to get to do and it was an accident that I even found this. I just had this set of blades from my old Ferris, and I just threw them on there real quick. Let's see what this will do. And it fixed everything for me. But your area of grass, you might not have one issue with an ICD deck. But I wanted to clarify because I do not want people going out and buying a Ferris and saying, Johnny, you're just an idiot. This is a clarification on the ICD deck because of the lawn site post. I do like the ICD deck. I had to make some adjustments for my area where I live. It's up to you. Would I buy another ICD deck? If I bought a Ferris, I would definitely buy an EFI engine. I would not buy the Vanguard engine. As you can see, all this contraption that's been done to mine is just absolutely crazy because it has some what's that called? Vapor locking issues. And if you would let this fuel run out and it would go dry, you had to prime the carburetor just to get it started again. It just didn't have enough suction power. Now I don't have that problem with that electronic fuel pump, but I did when I had the regular fuel pump sitting on that side. If I let that gas run out and it stopped in the middle of the yard, you had to go get your starting fluid or a little cup of gas to dump it into that carburetor because it wouldn't do it. That's my time with this. If you have any questions, let me know. But if I bought a Ferris, it would be the 28 EFI, and I would make those adjustments if you're in the Northeast. That's a mower that I like. That's definitely a mower I would buy. Or go with the Toro. See you guys.